Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to be joined today by one of the most respected people in the WordPress community. He's the founder of WP Elevation, which is a community course, and in my view, almost a way of life in some ways. He's helped tens of thousands of WordPress consultants across the world make more money and, frankly, run their businesses more efficiently. So, if you sell websites or you're a WordPress consultant or you do any sort of digital media and you aren't repeatedly selling these things for sort of 10, 20K upwards, then you really need to listen to what this guy has to say. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Troy Dean.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam. I'll try and live up to that introduction. Thanks for having me on the show, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, it's pleasure's all mine, mate. It's amazing to have somebody that's done so much, sort of share their ideas. So thank you very, very much, mate. So what I would like to do with the time that we have here is we're going to try and go through your proposal template, which you give to your private members of the WP Elevation community. Now, this is a bit of a legendary template because it seems to have won an awful lot of money over the years, not only for yourself back in the day when you did your thing, but also, the tens of thousands of people that use it, around the world. So I thought what would be really, really cool is if we actually go through that template and actually just dig into sort of why it's the way it is. Because a lot of people, when they look at proposals, they don't necessarily understand why certain things are the way they are. And I think the why is incredibly important. And yes, you can just copy and paste things, but if you don't know why they're there, then it doesn't help you understand, when to put something in, when to leave something out, or whatever. So overall, I think that helps you understand, better how to actually sell stuff. So I think it's going to be super valuable to do that. But before we get into that, I wonder if you could just give the audience that don't know what WP Elevation is, and I realize an awful lot will do. If you could just give a super, super quick overview as to what WP Elevation is for people that don't know.
Sure. WP Elevation is a community it's the world's largest business community for WordPress consultants. It begins with a course, which is about 6 to 8 weeks long, depending on how good you are at executing the homework. And that course is designed to help you get some best practices set up in your business. It's not a technical course. We don't teach you how to build websites. We don't teach you how to design UX. We don't teach you CSS. We teach you how to run your business as a WordPress consultant. So we teach, lead gen, writing proposals, taking, effective client meetings, taking a brief from a client, a lot of soft skills, a lot of client communication, project management skills, getting referrals, and the proposals is obviously a big part of that. That's how it starts. People usually join our program because they want the content, they want the templates, they want the blueprints to set up in their business. And so it kind of, at the risk of kind of cheapening it, kind of is like a business in a box. Like if you're starting out or you've been running a WordPress business for a while and you know that there's some things that you could be doing better, this is literally like a plug and play kind of solution. You just take our templates, plug it in, watch the training videos, implement it in your business, tweak it and kind of customize it for your own personality and your own way of doing things. And then you've got these processes set up. But really what happens then is once people get into the program and they start having conversations with other elevators, as we call them, they quickly realize that it's the most supportive community I think on the planet. Like, it's ridiculous how supportive this community is, and we'll tell a couple of stories about that later. And so that really is the benefit of what we offer is because a lot of our members are either freelancers or they work in very small teams, and you end up kind of living in this silo where you're not really sure if you're doing it right, because you're just kind of in your own little world, your own little bubble. And so just getting that validation from other people that you're on the right track and getting to be able to, get questions answered in a timely fashion, because we've got, almost 1,000 members now active in the program, and they're scattered in all different time zones around the world. So there's always someone online to help you. That kind of support from the community is really, I think, the most valuable part of the program.
Yeah, and I've been a part of the private members Facebook group. I'm privileged enough to be part of that group. And I mean, I think a lot of people are part of different Facebook groups, and each one of them has their own little sort of flavor. But what is so unique and so different about the WP Elevation group is, like you say, how supportive everyone is of each other. And I can't remember how long ago it was, but there was a crazy storm that was smashing America to pieces a little while back, and lots and lots and lots of people in that group were, without power, without internet, without any sort of signal, and they wanted to keep their clients in the loop. And what was absolutely insane was, in a world where everybody's money focused, everybody's, very commercial focused, so many people were just saying, give me the number of that person. I will call them, tell them what's happened, and I'll fix whatever they need. The concept of money went out the window. The concept of, running a business went out the window. It became helping other human beings with their issues. And I just thought that was just the coolest thing. And, we told that story to our audience, and it's probably one of the things that's got the biggest response, even though it had nothing to do with proposals. It had nothing to do with, our thing. And I just thought that was really, really, really cool.
I think that was Hurricane Irma that that slammed into Florida, is the event that you're talking about. And it's funny because the same year, early 2017, I spoke at WordCamp Miami, and I flew out there a few days early. I spoke at WordCamp Atlanta, then I flew down to Miami and spoke at WordCamp Miami. But before WordCamp Miami, we ran a private mastermind for a group of our elevators, and there were about 20 or 25 people. We spent 3 days in a cool little hotel in Miami, masterminding and implementing and helping each other in our businesses. And it finished on a Friday. I think it was like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And what happened is on the Saturday, Colin, whose last name escapes me, I can't believe I've forgotten his last name. He was the original guy that made the Beaver Builder videos, very active in the WordPress community. He was hanging out at a Starbucks in Miami. He'd literally just quit his job. He'd gone full-time in the business. This was his first week. And we'd wrapped up this mastermind. Everyone was really pumped up and excited. He was at this Starbucks, and he got chatting to this guy who, in the line, waiting for coffee. And this guy basically gets all his friends together, and they go out and they feed the homeless in Miami. And Colin was like, Colin Cartwright is his name. Sorry, Colin, if you're watching this, I forgot your name, my friend. Colin Cartwright. He's like, oh, man, that sounds awesome. Have you got a website? And the guy's like, nah, man, we're all just volunteers. We don't have any money. Like, every bit of money we get, we just put into making these lunch bags up with like fruit and bottles of water and sandwiches, and we take them out. We try and get out there every weekend and feed the homeless people living under the bridges. And Colin's like, you mean you don't have a website? This is crazy. Like, you need a website. So he started pinging. He made a video on his phone in Starbucks with the guy, and he posted that video in our Facebook group. And within like half an hour, people came from all over the world and jumped in. We set up a private Slack team. We had people designing logos. Pete Perry built the website on Beaver Builder. We had someone else setting up the hosting. We had someone else doing SSL certificates. I did all the copywriting. I spoke to the guy who was running this charity over the phone. I interviewed him over the phone. I made a bunch of notes, and I wrote all the copywriting for the website. It was a Saturday. We all just went, this is what we're doing today. We all just jumped in, volunteered our time, and we built a website in a day, and we launched it. It still exists. It's called M28 Missions. And I told the story the following day at WordCamp Miami, and by then I could show a screenshot of the website that we'd literally built the day before. And I remember being in this lecture hall at this university in Miami telling this story, and everyone applauded right at the end of my presentation when I showed the screenshot of Colin and this guy in Starbucks, and then I showed the screenshot of the website. And for me, that was like the kind of beautiful kind of way of summarizing the spirit of the open source community that WordPress has kind of grown up on. And it was a truly amazing experience that I've never been a part of anything like that before. And I think it's testament to how supportive our community are of each other. And, no one got paid, and we just all gave up our Saturday to work on that project together because it mattered to Colin. And so if it mattered to Colin, then we were going to help him.
It's amazing. It really is. And, if you were listening to this and you didn't know anything about this community, you might be thinking, oh, yeah. But no, I'm
it's a cult.
But actually, it makes complete sense. And it's a really, really, really amazing thing. Cool.
And for
So
those, and just a little sidebar here,
yeah,
pardon the pun, but for those who don't care about the touchy feely stuff and just want to know about like the hard numbers, I just ran some numbers on the back of a napkin here, and our proposal template, the one that we're about to dissect, is responsible for around about $50 million a year in consulting revenue across our membership base. So there's something going on there, and if you look at all of our members and the average kind of yearly revenue across all of our member base, it's about 50 million a year in revenue that the WP Elevation ecosystem is kind of worth, and that proposal template drives that revenue every single day of the week.
wow. Well, that's what we're using for the headline then.
Yeah. Excellent.
Cool. Right. So we've done the touchy feely stuff. We've done the teasing the big numbers. Now let's have a look at this template. So I'm gonna I'll overlay the screenshots over the top of the video so people can see that. So we haven't got to worry about screen sharing or anything. We can just talk about it.
Perfect.
So the first thing I want to do is the first page is a snapshot. Now it starts off by going into essentially it's almost like a recap of something that's already happened. So there's lots of fill in the blanks here. So I wonder if you could just sort of give an idea as to why the snapshot is more about the company that this is for and less about the company that's writing it. That's a loaded question, of course. But
Yeah. So this is the big, to coin a cliche, the world's most popular radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me, right? The big mistake that web designers and designers in general and web consultants make is that the first page of their proposal is basically a job interview. It's like, here's my resume and here's my portfolio and here's how amazing we are. And guess what? At this stage of the game, your client really doesn't care about, the work that you've done or how many fancy clients you've worked on or how much you know about what it is you do. At this stage of the game, they don't care. I can't remember who coined this phrase, whether it was Zig Ziglar or Jim Rohn, but one of those guys said, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So the first page of the proposal template for me should be, it's your opportunity to explain to your potential new client that you understand what it is they're trying to achieve and that the problems they're trying to overcome, because everyone else will just be putting a fancy, portfolio in front of them. And if you can come in and say, hey, I have been listening to our conversations, I've made some notes, I've retained some information, and I think this is what it is you're trying to achieve, and I think I can help you, then instantly you've got their attention. And I've used proposal software way back when it was, before any proposal software existed, really. I used a tool called Slide Rocket, which wasn't meant for proposals, it was meant for presentations, but it would track how much time people spent on each page of the proposal. And I guarantee you, people open a proposal, they skip straight through to the pricing page, which is always last, and that's where they spend all their time. They don't read anything else. If you can get them in that very first sentence, and our proposal templates, our proposals are deliberately kind of, the templates that we provide are deliberately plain. I know you guys have done some work on sprucing it up, which is great. But we just want to cut straight to the chase, that this is what we're talking about. This is who you are, Mr. Client. These are the problems that you've got, and we understand those challenges and those objectives, and we think we can help you out.
Yeah, it's we know this from sort of the statistics and things like that. And what we've found, being able to look across a crazy amount of data, is that the first page and the page with a pricing table on it are the two.
Yeah, so exactly.
They often read. Behind the scenes, we've got like a word count thing, which generates some information on how long they should spend on that page. And basically, the first page, whatever's on it, will get read properly. The pricing page is the second page they often go to. We'll never go through it in order. So in a weird way, I don't know if you sort of second this, but you almost need to write the thing almost in two layers. So you've got to write it as if they're going to read the first page in the pricing, and then you've got to write it fully. It's like a full document. It's like a layered thing.
Yeah, and it's like classic copywriting as well, where you write your subheadings in a way that if they only read the subheadings, they still make sense and it still tells a story.
Yeah.
Because that's what people do. People scroll through, especially on the web. People scroll through. They just read the subheadings, and then if something catches their eye, they stop.
Yeah.
And they read, and then they might go back up. So if your subheadings don't flow well, you've lost them. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a similar concept.
It is, and it's also getting that buy-in as well. So like, if you're not going to get them to read the whole thing word for word, but if you grab them with that first piece, which I
Yeah,
honestly believe is the most important part in the whole proposal, then they are more likely to read the rest.
yeah,
Cool. So that's the snapshot. Now, the next thing you go into here is, I mean, in our version, we've actually merged the business and target needs. You've got this slightly
yeah,
separately, but
sure. Yep,
it's sort of one and the same in a way. So you've
yeah.
got your business and target needs here. So can you just sort of break down how you would fill this in? Because I'll sort of read it off a little bit, but you've kind of got specifically the website needs to fulfill the following needs, and you've got, basically bullet points, and then target
Yep.
audience is very much the same thing. So how
Yeah.
would you go about sort of getting this information and then sort of using this part?
So when here's here's the big aha moment is that a proposal, there should be no surprises with a proposal, and this is the big problem, I think, or the big kind of mistake that people make, because, and it's no one's fault, it's just that we don't know any better until we've been down the path a few times and hit our head against a brick wall and learned some lessons. There should be no surprises in a proposal. There should be no sticker shock about the pricing, because you should have qualified the lead and the prospect before you've even had a conversation with them. So they should know roughly what your projects are worth before you even submit a proposal. And there should be no surprises in the content of the proposal. So if you have run a successful discovery session with the client, whether that's a free discovery session that you're using essentially as a lead magnet, like a physical lead magnet, or if it's a paid discovery session, which I also think is a genius idea to get paid for your work. If you've done that, that discovery session right, or what we call in WP Elevation a go wide, go deep session, then you've got a very clear idea on what the client actually needs from a business point of view, and also what their target audience needs to achieve on the website. So I've got an example here from one of the examples that we use is a fictitious client called Tim's Toolshed. Now, this is based on a real proposal I wrote for a picture framing store, picture framing family business in South Australia, my hometown. But I've changed the name and some of the details for privacy reasons. But what I've put here is specifically, and I spent a few hours on a Sunday actually visiting this client in their store, getting to know them. And one of the big problems they had was they were spending, $2.5, $3 grand a month on Google AdWords, and they had no idea if that was working. So I've said here, specifically, the new website needs to fulfill the following business needs. Increase the number of new inquiries coming from the website. That's a no-brainer. Showcase current promotions to attract customers in store. In other words, let's get people off the internet and get them to come in the shop. Because once they're in the shop, these guys had an amazing conversion rate. Put people in the shop in front of them. They were so passionate and so skilled at what they did. Everyone walked out with a product and with some framing. The website also needs to provide answers to common questions to free up staff from repetitive telephone inquiries. That was one of the big problems they had is, when are you open? Where are you? Do you do this? Do you do these kind of services? So let's just put all that information on the website, free up staff from those repetitive conversations. And we need to measure the return on investment of Google AdWords, which very simply is plugging in Google Analytics and setting up some goal conversions, right? So this is specifically what the new website needs to achieve for the business. In summary, I said Tim's Toolshed is currently spending reasonable marketing budget on pay-per-click advertising and is unsure if this is working. The new website needs to answer this question once and for all. So instantly, Tim, my fictitious client here, reads this and goes, wow, he was paying attention. That is exactly what I want. And it's got nothing to do with me. It's got nothing to do with my skill set. It's got everything to do with what Tim wants. And the next section, the target audience needs, which you've kind of combined, I did some deep discovery with this client to understand their target audience, who is do-it-yourself men in their 30s to 50s. In the case of the framing shop, it's actually females in their 45 plus, and they've got all these beautiful pictures of family members and grandkids and kids and graduations and stuff, and they want to get these things framed. They're engaged in some kind of home improvement or outdoor project around the house. They're prepared to spend good money on their projects for quality products, and they're always looking for innovative ways of doing things. They're actively seeking advice and guidance because they're on the internet doing research. So the new website needs to assist the target audience to do the following. In the case of Tim's Toolshed, find the right tool for the job, get the right advice on how to use the tools, get everything they need under the one roof, get easy access to opening hours and location details, and get discounts and rewards for loyalty. That's what the target audience want. That's what my client, Tim, that's what his customers need from the website. There's no point just putting up a fancy brochure site or a product catalog if you're not going to give any advice on how to use the right tool for the job. Because when DIY men in their 30s to 50s, I'm one of them, when they get online and start researching, they're not like, oh, you know, how much is the circular saw? They're like, how do I shave 10 mil off a door because I can't hang it straight? Oh, you might need a circular saw, right? Oh, I didn't know that. What's a circular saw? Well, this is what it does, and this is what it looks like. And by the way, this is how much it is, and we have them in stock. You can come in and buy one. That's the path, right? So you've got to do this discovery work to understand your client and your client's customers.
See, that's massive. And there's so many people that we speak to on a daily basis. I mean, I've had 10,000 conversations. Literally, we know this from Intercom, our chat. We've had 10,000 conversations with people in the last year. And a lot of them are around this kind of thing. Some of it's very straightforward stuff, but it's amazing how many people don't even consider the idea of digging into, well, okay, we're making this website. I'm selling it to you. Sure, but who's it actually for? It's not for you. You know what's going to be on it. You don't need to know what your opening hours are going to be or what product information you have. You've got all that in your brain. This is for your customers or your clients or whatever. So it's a really interesting shift there from, you know, what do you want on your website? What color do you want your website to be? What, you know, theme do you want to use? Whatever. Instead of going, actually, this isn't about what we want to design. This isn't about what you want to buy. This is about what they want, you know, and actually just shifting that focus.
That's right.
I mean, slight little tangent, but do you not think that even when you start having that conversation, I imagine it helps when you have things like, oh, I don't like that shade of red, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I'll tell you what else it does. It reduces scope creep dramatically because the instant response. See, what happens with scope creep is you get halfway through a project and the client starts to get fruity about shipping. Fruity, by the way, is not a good thing. They start to get fruity about shipping this new website, and they start to get nervous that you know that their husband's not going to like it, or that their business partner's not going to like it, or the staff are going to, you know, hate it and they're going to get laughed at. And basically, they're afraid that they're going to look stupid for launching this new website, and they're going to be embarrassed by it. So the very easy answer, and so then what they do is they say, oh, I was talking to someone on the weekend. I love a conversation that starts like that. I was talking to someone on the weekend, and they reckon we should have this thing on the website. Really? Well, let's go back to the proposal that you approved, and let's go back to the prototype that we built as a result of the discovery session. Nowhere in there did you mention, you know, feature XYZ. So have the goals changed for this project? Are we still on track to achieve the goals that we set out right at the start? Yes. Well, then let's continue with the project that we planned out, and let's let the market decide whether or not we're on track, because you and I are not going to use the website. We decided to build this particular website for the customer, for your customer. So let's continue that path and let's ship it and get some feedback from the market, and then let them decide, right? Because the biggest problem we've got, as we all know, is actually getting your customer to use your website. Because, you know, on average, the average internet user uses something like 11 websites a day, right? And Google and Facebook and YouTube, there go 3, and Twitter maybe 4. That's maybe an app, maybe a mobile app. Your bank, right? Your work website, wherever you work, right? So that's 6 gone already. There's, you know, some kind of addiction website you're going to use, whether it's gambling or crypto or, you know, real estate, property flipping or porn or whatever that is, right? So there's 7. We've got 3 left. So how are you going to get your website in one of those coveted 3 spots? Getting the attention of your potential customer is the biggest problem we've got. So don't worry about the color of purple that we're using right now. Let us decide that, and let your target audience tell us whether or not that's the right thing to be doing, right? So having a deep understanding of your client's target audience removes all those conversations. It minimizes scope creep, and it just gives you a way of deflecting when the client starts to get nervous about, you know, where they're at.
No, that's absolutely spot on. And honestly, anybody listening to this that is not doing this, you absolutely should listen to this, because it will get you out of so many jams. It really would. Cool. Okay. So moving on to solution. So take it away on this one. But yeah, a lot of this sounds like it's more or less completely written already. You've just literally got to put in, I guess, sort of like some key headline features.
So
Yeah, take it away.
yeah, so solution, the key to writing a good proposal is, we've talked about the snapshot. I mean, there's this great marketing framework of any kind of copywriting or any kind of presentation. If you've never done it before, if you follow the framework AIDA, it'll get you out of a lot of trouble. So the first thing is A is for attention. You've got to get their attention. Hello, are you listening? Yes, great, excellent. Then you've got to keep their interest, I for interest. I have this thing that you might be interested in. So in your case, it'd be like, hello, Mr. Designer, are you listening? Yes, I've got proposal software that can help you. Oh, I'm interested. Great. Now you need to increase their desire, their desire for what it is you've got, which is all about benefits. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then the final thing is action. So now I've got your attention, I've piqued your interest, I've told you about the benefits and increase your desire. All you need to do is push this button and sign up for one of our plans. That's the action you want them to take. So AIDA, very simple copywriting framework you can use for just about anything. So our snapshot is designed to get their attention. The business needs and the target audience needs is designed to pique their interest. Oh, this is interesting. They have been listening, and yes, this is exactly what we want. I want to know more. The solution is where we increase their desire for what it is we're offering. And the best way to increase someone's desire for something is to explain it to them in terms of how it is going to benefit them. It's human behavior, right? So let me just pick an example here. In the case of Tim's Toolshed, the new website will be designed to allow the DIY man to research information, view project how-to guides, and watch videos to find the right tools for the job. So this is actually a benefit for the target audience, which in turn is going to benefit my client, Tim's Toolshed. The feature of that, of course, is I'm going to build a blog. I'm probably going to use WordPress. I'm going to use some YouTube embed codes to put some videos on the blog. I'm going to use categories and taxonomies to organize that blog in a hierarchical structure, which is great for search engines and also great for usability. But I'm not going to say any of that to the client because the client doesn't have a clue what I'm talking about unless they're another web developer, right? Which is a whole other conversation. But if they're a small business owner, they don't understand what I'm talking about. But if I say that we're going to build a website in a way that will allow the DIY man, your target audience, to research information, view project how-to guides, and watch videos to find the right tools for the job, oh, that's a good idea, isn't it? Yes, it is a good idea. Encourage the DIY man to come in store to redeem discounts and rewards. Great. Now, you and I know that we're going to maybe use a custom post type and some kind of loyalty plugin to do that, where they can print out their own discount code and bring it in store. They don't need to know that. They don't need to know the technical aspect of the features. They need to know how it is going to benefit their business. And we're also going to track successful signups of visitors coming from Google Ads. Again, I'm not going to explain the tracking code and the goal conversions we're going to set up in Google Ads because that's our job. They just need to know how it's going to benefit them. So the solution section is deliberately written in a way to be a little bit vague about the technical side of things, but to be heavily laden with benefits to them, because that will increase their desire for the solution. Because if you put this in front of a client, they will be nodding their head and say, yes, this is exactly what we've spoken about. It's exactly what we want.
I mean, what we've found whenever I've been shooting proposal breakdown episodes, and whenever I sort of, from a support perspective, look at other proposals and things like that, it's amazing to me when you're looking at web stuff or anything marketing-y or techy or anything like that. It's insane how much technical jargon ends up in these proposals. And I spend my life just basically saying, like, does your client actually understand what any of this means? Like, if not, take it out, or the very worst case, just use the old "which means that" trick. So you say the techie thing, put which means that, which means that, and then answer the question you just wrote for yourself. And then in often case, you can just take the beginning part off. You don't even need it.
Correct. That's right. Yeah. A similar version is "so you can." So we're going to use opt-in monster so you can capture more leads, and then you just remove everything before "so you can." Exactly. It's great. Exactly. Because who wants an opt-in monster on their website? They're like, whoa, what do you mean you're putting monsters on my website? What the hell's going on? And I'm sorry, but your client doesn't know who Yoast is. So they don't care if you're using the Yoast SEO plugin, right? You and I can geek off about that at WordCamps until we're blue in the face because we love it. But our clients should not be privy to that conversation because they don't need to know.
Yeah.
And in fact, you'll just confuse them, if anything, you know?
Yeah. Well, a confused person doesn't buy anything.
That's exactly right. Where there is confusion, there is inaction because they're confused, right? So, yeah, spot on.
Cool. Right. So next we go into a project timeline. Now, what I love about this is how straightforward and simple it is. And you haven't gone into too much detail here, which I think is really, really, really key. So, I mean, it's not a huge amount to say, but I mean, you've got the project timeline here, which is, I mean, so many people, again, they don't say anything about some of these, I suppose what you call unasked questions. I mean, how long is it going to take is an obvious one for sure. But you've got, in my opinion, you've got just about enough detail in here to, you know, justify that it's some significant work, but not so much that they're getting bogged down about like, oh, well, you know, it's that vagueness balance you were talking about.
Yeah. And also what I'm trying to do here is set expectations that, you know, I mean, I had a very good client of mine return just recently, actually, after years of, you know, kind of disappearing into the wilderness, and said that they need a new website and they need a whole new strategy. And so we started to have a conversation about it, and it became apparent very quickly that she needed it really fast. She was like, oh, by the way, I need this by the end of the month. And I was like, whoa. I said, okay, why? Oh, because there were some conferences that she was going to be speaking at. And I was like, I'm not the droid you're looking for. Really sorry, but I just can't do it by the end of the month. It's just not going to happen. I don't care how much money you've got. I would have to put my team under so much stress to get this done. And you would effectively be pushing the stop button on my business to help you because your planning is poor. Right?
Yeah.
You've left it to the last minute. Sorry, I can't help you. You know, wish you all the best, and we're still good mates, but I can't help you. So I want to set expectations right from the get-go that this is how long things will take, and these are the sort of the phases that we work through, and this is how long each phase will take.
It's good because you've got enough detail in here. You've got discovery, design, development, and testing, and nobody can argue with any of those things. They all need to happen. And
that's right.
It's not super detailed. I mean, sometimes I see these things and people have got timelines in there and they've written every tiny little thing that they're going to do on this as if it's like you've got to remember that the timeline that you would share with your team,
that's right,
project is a different thing that you're going to share with your client.
That's right. Your client does not need to see your Gantt chart.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. Write it up, but don't stick it in the proposal.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So next page is the big one, which is investment. Now, I know that you're not a big proponent of this idea of, well, okay, let's say it this way. How would you recommend people come up with a project price?
So here's the thing about pricing. Pricing, once you understand that pricing is completely made up, right? Once you come to that realization that everything in the world, the price of this coffee at Starbucks, right, is 150 pesos. I'm in the Philippines at the moment. I'm in Manila visiting our team. And this Starbucks coffee is like 150 pesos, which is like, I can't even work the math out on that. It's like about $3 or something, right? It's completely made up, right? Who said this is worth 150 pesos? Well, Starbucks say it's worth 150 pesos. I can't go in there and offer them less. I can, but they just won't make the coffee. Oh, I'll give you 70 pesos. Sorry, dude, it's 150. Okay. So why did Starbucks decide that this was 150 pesos? Because they've worked out that they can deliver this to me here in Manila for 150 pesos and stay profitable. That's the only decision that's gone into the pricing of this. They can't do that if they're not profitable. The second decision is, how do we remain, I don't want to say competitive, but how do we remain sustainable to our target audience? Now, I can get a lot cheaper coffee in Manila than 150 pesos, right? I can pay a lot less for coffee, but it's not Starbucks. And the environment in Starbucks is like a little mini office that I can go into and open the laptop, and there's free Wi-Fi, and it's beautiful. It's a great environment. Every time I travel, I go to Starbucks because I kind of feel like I'm at home, right? So the only questions that you need to ask is, what is it going to cost me to deliver this project in terms of the hard costs, you know, software, themes, plugin licenses, labor, You know, if you have to hire someone, if you have to hire a copywriter to fulfill this project, that's going to cost you money. So what are the hard direct costs related to that project? And then what are the business costs related to just running the business? You need to know what it costs you to run your business on a daily basis. Yeah, that's why I know if someone wants to hire us for a weekly sprint, we're effectively pushing stop on the business. I know the minimum cost that's involved, let alone the profit that we're missing out on. So you need to know what it costs you to run the business. You need to know what the direct costs are in actually fulfilling that project. And you also need to know your profit margins. Once you've done that math, which is pretty basic once you've done it, it's not that hard, then you say, okay, well, if this project is going to cost me this and my profit margin is this and my running costs are this, then I need to sell it for this. Now, that number that you arrive at will be different depending on where you live in the world, what your costs are for running your business, who your clients are, which end of the market you've decided to play in. But that decision should not be dictated to by your client or by your competitors or by anything your client says they can get somewhere else or by what people are charging on Upwork, right? All those factors are irrelevant because Upwork and your competitors and your client have no vested interest in your profitability. They do not care if you're profitable or not. And here's the big mindset shift is when you realize this, you owe it to yourself and your team and your clients to stay profitable. Because if you run out of profit, you will hit the wall, you'll run out of money, you'll have to go get a job, and then you can't serve anyone, which is a lose-lose for everyone involved. So, having said all of that, once you know what the project's going to cost you and what your margins are, it's very easy to go, well, I need to get paid 15 grand for this project, otherwise I'm losing money. So there you go. So, it's 15 grand or it's 17.5 or it's 8.5 or whatever it is. So I'm a big fan of project fees. I don't do hourly rates. The only other pricing structure that I might entertain is a weekly sprint. But again, it's weekly sprints. I think you have to be super clear about the scope and the expectations, because a weekly sprint is a weekly sprint. It's not a week and 2 days. It's a weekly sprint, and you have to be very clear about that. I know a lot of people that do weekly sprints successfully, but I price on a project basis, and I price on value. So how much value are we adding to the client? If you can, and the thing about value pricing is it comes back to what we were talking about before about discovery. If you do discovery well enough and you understand that the guy's spending $3 grand a month on Google AdWords and has no idea if it's converting, well, if you can prove to him that $3,000 a month is actually resulting in $6,000 worth of sales, and you can actually prove that to him for the first time where no one else has been able to, well, after 3 months, he's $9 grand up. He's $3 grand a month up, and you've actually proven that to him on paper. So for him to pay 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 grand for a website, it's a no-brainer, because in 4 months' time, it's going to pay itself off, right?
Yeah.
So if you do that work up front, it's a much easier conversation to have. And now we're not arguing about an hourly rate or the cost of plugins.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. So there's something else that I want to get you to talk to, and that's the idea of asking for the budget.
Yeah.
Your response there is, well, of course, and this scares a lot of people, because I think when they go, oh, well, I don't want to ask for the budget, because then what's going to happen is they're going to think that I'm going to just charge them, $100 less than their budget is, just so I can come in under budget. Right. Well, maybe, yeah. But I mean, I wonder if you can just talk to that whole budget concept.
Sure. So let's just go back up to 30,000 feet for a second, right? And then chunk it down. The 30,000 foot view is you're wasting a lot of time talking to people and pitching people and unloading your brain and your intellectual property and your experience, answering questions to people before you even know if they've got $50 to spend on a website, right? And you'll end up in a position where someone asks you, literally, this is a brief that I actually said yes to when I was first starting out back in 2007. Someone basically said, I want to build a social network for homeopaths, and I've got $500. And I stupidly said, yeah, I can do that. No worries. We'll use WordPress and BuddyPress, and we'll make a social network, and I can do that for $500. And 6 weeks later, I was still trying to get this plugin thing to work with this other thing. And I rang the guy up and I said, dude, I'm really sorry. I'm having a mental breakdown. I can't do this. I'm giving you your money back. Please go away and never call me again. You've ruined my life. Right? Because I stupidly said yes, because I didn't know what I was doing. That's a true story. My dad will vouch for it because I was actually visiting my dad in Adelaide and I was at his place on the kitchen bench coding away, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm trying to build this thing for $500." Eventually I had a big session with my dad, and my dad's like, "Just give him his money back, man. Like, he's killing you." So that was a huge lesson. So you want to basically just qualify that right from the get-go. So the way I do it is I say, look, you don't have to tell me your budget, but you should know that our projects are somewhere between 15 and 40K, right? If we're still having a conversation, let's have a conversation. But if you've got $5,000 to build a website, I probably can't help you. I might be able to refer you on, but I probably can't help you. So let's just not waste each other's time. Now, what I can do is we can spend a little bit of time going through a discovery session, a half-day workshop in your office with your staff, $1,500. And at the end of it, we'll design a digital marketing strategy and a brief. You can take that and you can shop that around and give that to other agencies who might be able to build it for $5,000 because they may have less overheads and they may have less staff and they may have, whatever, less margins. They might be making less profit, whatever. So we can do that. But if you want us to build a website, you're going to be looking at somewhere between 15 and 40. That's typically where our projects sit. Now, that eliminates 70% of the leads that come into our business, which is a good thing because none of those leads are profitable. So I'm not helping anyone by working with them. I'm not helping them. I'm hurting my own business. I'm actually putting myself out of business, which ultimately means I'm going to hurt all of my clients. So have the conversation up front. What I like to say is, my question is, have you got a budget allocated for this project? I'm not asking them what the budget is. I'm just saying, this is part of our Go Wide, Go Deep session. Have you got a budget allocated for this project? No. That's a big red flag because that typically means you're shopping for a price and you're going to be taking the money out of your savings to pay for it. If you are working with a serious organization, which I like to, and we had a lot of success working with non-profits in this very situation where they actually do have marketing budgets set aside for things like new websites. And I say, do you have a budget allocated for this website? And they say, yes, we do. And usually if they do, they say, yes, we do. We've put aside $25,000 to rebuild the website. I'm like, sweet, we can definitely help you. And I remember getting a budget of $25,000 for a nonprofit and running the numbers and coming back and saying, you know what, we're going to do this for 19.5 because that's all we need. You should save the other $5,500 and put that into some email marketing or some social a little bit later on. But right now, 19.5 gets us over the line. I just won a client for life.
Yeah.
And it was profitable. I could have been greedy and said it was $24,493, but I was, honest about it. If they'd said we've got a budget of $12,000, not sure I can help you. So that's the question I like to ask to qualify that conversation and just save everyone's time.
What I like about it is you're not necessarily, obviously it helps if they tell you, but you're not necessarily saying, what is your budget? You're saying, do you have one?
Yeah.
It's a key, it sounds the same question, but it's not the same question at all.
So if I get a cold lead come to my website, there'll be, and I split test this in Gravity Forms. I'll do a couple of things. I'll say, typically our project, I will ask the question, what kind of a budget do you have allocated for this? And then I'll say something like, you don't need to tell us if you don't want to, but you should know that most of our projects sit somewhere between 15 and 40 grand. Tick this box if you want to move on, kind of thing. Or I might say, what kind of budget do you have allocated for this project? Be honest, and we'll tell you what we can and can't do. And then sometimes I'll have a drop down that says less than 15, 15 to 25, 25 to 40, 40 plus. They'll always pick 15 to 25. Or if they pick less than 15, I'm like, sorry, man, can't help you. Or I might leave it blank and just say, tell us what you've got and we'll be honest and we'll tell you what we can and can't do. And then they'll fill it in, or they might say, I don't know. I'm wanting you to tell me what this costs. Then I know that there's an education process that needs to go on there before I'm going to give them a proposal. I'm never going to give anyone a proposal if they have no idea how much we usually charge, or if I have no idea what budget they've got, because it's just insulting. If someone's expecting me to be able to build this for $3,000 and that's their mindset and that's the world that they live in because they think websites cost $3,000 and I come in with $15,500, they just think I'm an asshole, right? They just think I'm trying to rip them off. So I'm never going to give anyone a proposal unless we've had a conversation about money beforehand.
That's a massive distinction. I can only hope that there's people listening to this prepared to switch gears and to switch to that kind of mindset, because knowing what you're dealing with up front, you said it earlier, and it's a really great point. The proposal should not have any surprises in it.
That's right.
It shouldn't have any surprises in it. The snapshot, the business and target audience needs, the solution, and the timeline. They should all be things that they've told you more or less.
Correct. That's exactly right. Like, that's exactly right. And in the Go Wide, Go Deep session, I'll say, what's your expected time frame for this? And if they say, oh, we need it in 3 weeks, I'll be like, whoa, dude, that's going to be a problem. So the proposal is just a written document that formalizes everything that you've already spoken about with the client, including the expected investment.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely spot on. And yeah, anybody sort of stuck on pricing, just listen to this on repeat and just get it soldered into your brain, because it's the only logical way to price something up in this arena anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, just the little dovetail there is people watching this video, obviously watching this video because they want to improve their proposal process, and they probably want to get paid more for the work that they're doing because they're probably undercharging, because that's how most of us start out. And that's a whole other conversation about how a scarcity mindset is just part of our DNA and part of our survival. And that's, as I said, that's a whole other masterclass we could do sometime. But what I would suggest is that if you're feeling any kind of resistance to shifting your mindset or trying this stuff out, or you're thinking there's no way I could ask anyone what their budget is, just ask yourself, everything I've been doing right now has got me the results I've gotten so far, which is cool. But if you want to break through and you want to get better results, you've got to try different things. And that's what Adam and I are suggesting that you do now.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Cool. So motoring on. So you've got some FAQs in here.
Yep.
These are quite cool because these are actually the most technical, looks to me like it's the most technical part of the website.
Yeah.
Talk to me why you've seemingly put all of the techie Q&A stuff into one area.
So just before we move on to frequently asked questions, I just want to touch on the investment thing. Just the distinction in the investment is there are two sections. There's project essentials, and then there's optional extras, or project options. And the reason I do that is because, generally speaking, people are going to want to negotiate on price, right? So, hey, the project is $15,500. Oh, well, really, we've really only got a $12,000 budget. Okay, that's fine. Well, the project essentials, as you can see, is $12,000. And the project options is $3,000. So why don't we just leave the options for phase 2 and let's just roll out the essentials now as phase 1. So you're basically allowing them to negotiate, knowing full well that they want to negotiate. So you're basically giving them something they can leave out. Now, if you really have a look through the example that we give you, the project options are kind of pretty cool things that they probably don't want to leave out. So for them, it's like, do I really want highly targeted lead capture strategies? And do I really want a well-structured blogging platform? And do I really want to integrate social media and, blah, blah, blah? Yes, I do. Well, then you're going to have to pay for the options. But you can always add that later. Let's just get phase 1 done now if budget is a problem. So that's just a way of kind of preempting that conversation, which leads into FAQs. Usually what happens is when someone is reading through a proposal and they get to the point where they see the investment, emotionally, if they're at a point in this relationship with you where they're reading your proposal, emotionally, man, they've already made the decision that they want to work with you and that they want to make the investment, especially if you've had the conversation about budget like we've spoken about. So emotionally, they're like, yeah, this feels really good. But what happens is that the decision-making process, 90% of a purchasing decision happens like that, and it's emotional. It's like, yep, I want to buy from this person because they know what they're doing and I feel good about it. The last 10% of the decision takes a long time because you've got to convince your boring old rational brain to put your hand in your back pocket and actually pony up the cash, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is the brain starts going, oh, yes, well, this feels really good, doesn't it? It's all very exciting, but I got a question for you. What the hell's information architecture? I don't understand what he's talking about. Therefore, I'm not going to spend the money. What's an interactive prototype? Why does he use WordPress anyway? I heard WordPress isn't very secure. Where's it going to be hosted? What if something goes wrong? Who do I call a Sunday night when it all goes down? What happens after the website's launched? How long will it take to appear at the top of Google? So these are basically objections that the client has got to pulling the trigger, pushing the button and saying, let's go for it. They're all the things, all the logical, stupid, detailed questions that they're going to ask to try and convince themselves out of it. And our job, as I believe we're all marketers, and you have to be if you're selling a product or a service, you have to understand marketing. Our job is to know what those objections are and just answer those objections one at a time, but frame them as frequently asked questions. So the classic is, how long will it take to appear at the top of Google? Well, just answer that question right now. Educate them and answer it straight away. So by the time they get to the end of the proposal, they're like, huh, okay, well, logical brain has been satisfied. All those questions have been answered. Let's go with the decision and push the button.
What I like so much about the FAQs here is actually some of these questions will be asked. Where's it going to be hosted? Who do I call? Maybe, what happens after the website is launched? I mean, some of these things you would actually ask, but some things people don't ask.
Yeah.
And they never will.
Yeah.
What happens if you get hit by a bus tomorrow? That's a horrible question to ask someone, but it's an incredibly valid question. So if you die tomorrow, which is a really horrible thing to ask somebody, what happens to my website? Will it still be up? Do you have to check something every day? So if you can just call that out in advance,
totally,
you're all sorted. I mean, I actually had a guy, we were doing software development about 7 or 8 years ago, before we did better proposals. And he actually he was super high-end sort of finance guy, actually just straight up said, so if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, or a car, or you're in a plane crash, I'm like, all right, mate, just one death method is enough. Go through them all. You're plummeting towards the earth in a fiery ball of, I'm like, all right, mate, I can see you thought about this.
That's gold.
Yeah, I'm just sitting there going, all right, just kill me quickly. His question was really interesting. He said, when you've eventually died, what's happening to all my data? How do I get it back?
Yeah, well, it's about business continuity, and it's a valid question, especially if the business is generating revenue from the website, whether it's e-commerce or whether they're generating leads who then become customers. It's an absolute valid question. It's also a really good reason to use WordPress because of the open source nature of the community, and because it's supported by tens of thousands of developers all over the world. And you can literally say, hey, if I die, I'll hand the project over to my mate Paul, who's a WordPress developer. He's got a team. We use a similar framework. He knows he can log in and he can keep it up to date, and he can take it over.
You're not stuck. You're not building it on some sort of weird thing. But the interesting point was, I'd never heard that question before. He was just the first guy to ask it.
Yeah.
He definitely wasn't the first person to think it.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
So think about some of the questions that maybe people are too embarrassed to ask. Maybe they think that they're too stupid to ask.
Yeah.
And they're the things that you address. And that's what you've done so brilliantly in the FAQs here. I mean, if you've got different experiences, you can of course add to this.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting point, and the framing it as an FAQ is a stroke of genius.
Yeah, thank you. And you should be changing this, you should have a library of FAQs. For example, you should have a library of FAQs that are specific for e-commerce sites or membership sites, and you literally just drag and drop them in so that you customize the FAQs for, each proposal, which if you're using cool software, takes just seconds to do.
Thank you very much. It certainly does. Okay, cool. So we've got 2 more sections. So let's go to next steps.
Yeah. So this was a huge thing, right? We never used to do this. So AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. This is the action, right? This is the action bit. We never used to do this, but it's amazing what happens when you actually tell somebody what they need to do to accept the proposal. And so in this case, it says, hey, to proceed with this project, you are required to do this. Accept the proposal by clicking on the green button next to this proposal that says approve or accept or whatever it says, and then pay the 50% deposit and we'll get started. Our conversions went up dramatically when we just asked people to accept the proposal by pushing the button. Because previously we just send this proposal off and then you just wouldn't hear from them. You go, oh man. And then you ring them up, you say, hey dude, did you get my proposal? Oh yeah, I was going to ring you and find out what we do next. I'm like, maybe I should just tell them what to do next in the proposal. It's like the final frequently asked question. What do you want me to do now? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Push the accept button and pay me my deposit.
It's absolutely massive. I think I said to you earlier that I do this show called Proposal Breakdown, and we review and critique real life proposals and say what's good and what's bad. And I've just shot season 3 last week, and I did 7 of them, and 5 didn't have any call to action.
Yeah,
nothing.
Amazing.
It just ended. Yeah. It just ended. It's like the bottom was missing.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
right.
insane. I was like, what? So even if
Yeah,
I want to go ahead, I've got to now
yeah,
try and figure it out. It's not a game show.
yeah,
It's not
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just
yeah,
tell them. So
yeah, yeah. It's like
yeah.
Jeopardy, where you like tell them the answer and they have to guess the question. You know?
Yeah. But no, I
uh,
mean, I don't think there needs to be much said on this. It's pretty straightforward. Tell them
it's
what to
pretty
do next,
straightforward.
whatever that is for you.
Correct.
I mean, if you
Yep.
use better proposals, which obviously most of the people listening to this will be,
Yep.
you've got your built-in digital signature stuff in there. So just drag that
Yeah.
block in and don't send a proposal with that one.
Yep.
It's
Perfect.
absolutely crazy. So last section is mutual agreement.
Hmm.
So why, Troy, is it important to have an agreement?
Well, this is something that I need to give credit to my good friend Andy Clark at Stuff and Nonsense, because this is an appropriation, or a fork, if you like, of his Contract Killer, which he released as an open source project a long time ago. And what you basically want to do here, I don't like terms and conditions. I don't like contract. I like the phrase mutual agreement, because it's building a website is a collaborative project. We're going to need some stuff from you, Mr. Client. You're going to need some stuff from us. We're going to need to keep our communication channels open. So I want to make sure that we are both on the same page, and you know exactly what we're delivering. You know exactly what we're not going to do, and you know exactly what is required of you as part of this this process. Now, fortunately, I've only ever been in court once over a website, and it was weird. I'll tell you the story. I built a website for a lady, and it was, I actually custom coded it in PHP and MySQL before I discovered WordPress. I was very proud of it, and it looked beautiful. And someone got in her ear and said, "Oh, you should really do it in Flash because it can animate and be fancy." So I was just about to launch it, and she kind of got all fruity on me and said, "No, I don't want to do this. It's got to be animated, and we're going to do it in Flash." And I was like, "Oh God, what happened?" Everything was going so well. I said, "Well, look, you know, you can do what you like, but I've built you the website. It's done. So I'm going to send you the bill for the remaining balance, which is 50%. So she then took me to court to have a court order so that she didn't have to pay me the balance, right? Which was weird. I thought, I was like, why don't you just disappear and let me take you to court for not paying your bill? That
So
would
she
be like,
proactively.
right. She's like, well, this is going to end up in court, so let's just do it and get it over. I'm like, okay, fine. So I had like my documentation so well planned, and she was just all emotional. So we get to court, we're doing it over the phone because it was in Sydney, and this arbitrator gets on the line, and he like hears her story, and she's just like a blubbering mess, right? She's like, oh, and poor love, she'd just been given some bad advice. And then he came to me and he's like, all right, what's your version of events? And I'm like, well, here you'll see on the my documentation, what's it called? Exhibit A, document 1, on the March the 26th, blah, blah, blah. And I literally, I had this mutual agreement in place that we'd both agreed to and that she'd signed. And so I was like 5 minutes, and I had this folder, and I was so prepared and I was so ready to go. We're 5 minutes in, and the guy goes, "Ah, okay, look, this is an open and shut case, really. You agreed to this. He's done the work. You've got to pay him the money. See ya." I was just like, that's why you got to have a mutual agreement. I've only ever been taken to court once, and I won, and it was very easy. I was actually disappointed that I didn't get to present all of my really organized documentation, because I
You're
just
like,
had the one thing
I'm
signed. And
prepared for this.
I know, I was like,
This is
come
my
on, let me
moment.
just do it anyway, you know.
Yeah. We just pretend it's all.
I think he was on a promise at lunch. He was out of there. He was going for a pint at lunch, you know.
Amazing. Well, look, I
Yeah.
mean, it's absolutely brilliant to have your input on this, because seeing a template is one thing, but actually explaining why each thing is there, why you should have it, and more importantly, I guess, how to use it and how it can apply, it is absolutely amazing. So I hope that the people that have been watching this take this advice and use it.
Mm.
If you're not using
So do
the
I.
WP Elevation template in Better Proposals, you absolutely should. If you're selling, I know we've got our own web design templates and things like that in the system, but if you absolutely should use the WP Elevation template, it's, feel free to like customize it how you like, add your colors, do
Yeah.
whatever you want to do.
Yeah, totally.
But the content and the structure and the method of the discovery and then using it, you absolutely should be doing this. So finally, if somebody has listened to this, they have liked what you've got to say, and they want to learn more about WP Elevation, where is the best place for them to go to learn more about WP Elevation?
WPelevation.com is a good place to go. In fact, we should probably set up a special link for the Better Proposals crew. So in fact, I'll just do that now, and then I'll make sure Ray sets that link up before this goes live. So go to WPelevation.com/Better Proposals, and we will make sure that gets you to the right place. We've got a podcast, we've got Facebook live shows, we've got a great blog. We put out a lot of free training videos. We're a team of 8 full-time staff now, and about 22 contractors who touch the business on a weekly basis. We did our org chart recently, and there are 30 people that play amazing growth over the last 5 years. We've got 4 full-time staff here in Manila in the Philippines, and we're employing a couple more, and developers and support staff and video editors. And it's, we're all super passionate about getting out of bed every day and helping WordPress consultants improve their game and improve their business. And I've got to tell you, Adam, one of the most incredibly valuable parts of what I do is whenever I travel, I meet people who have been through our program and who have had some success, and they're so grateful, and they're so excited to meet me, and they want to just give me a hug and thank me for all the work that we've done because of the impact that we've had on their. So many people have quit their full-time job, and they're now working from home with their husband or their wife, and they're running their family business, and they're so grateful. And you'd know this as well from having lots of customers, that kind of feedback is, you can't put a price on that, man. That's worth way more than any amount of money you have in your bank account. And it's like a drug for me. I get out of bed very early every day, and I love what we do, and I love the impact that we're having on people's lives. So, yeah, so come and check us out, and keep the conversation going.
Amazing. No, thank you so much for stopping by, mate. It's great to have you on, and we'll make sure we
Thanks
do it
for
again.
having me. Awesome.